Hello to everyone listening to us again. It's Claudia here, nutrition and dietetic clinician, and Jacqueline Byrne, clinical psychotherapist. How are you, Jacqueline? End of the year, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, Claudia. Happy holidays. It's been so wonderful to have these conversations with you over the year, and I'm really excited about our topic today and diving into supporting women with this, with what can be a really tricky time of year.
Absolutely, because today we're talking about
Acceptance of body changes into the silly season.
it's such a juicy topic, and we started with these lives 12 months ago with a very similar topic. So for all of you that have been following us every single month and you need that extra support, you can always go back and refer to our first live videos. And if you need any support during the holidays, please make sure that you always go back to the videos, make sure that you are well supported by following great podcasts, and you are always more than welcome to reach out to Jacqueline and I, because we're always going to be here to help you through your recovery journey, throughout your recovery journey. But before we dive in, what are you going to be doing for the holidays?
We're going to have a really simple break this year. So just Christmas Day will be at our place, just with family, and nothing too big or too extensive. Lots of barbecues and beach visits and swims, and just taking time to fill our cup. That'll be the priority this year. What about for you guys, Claudia?
Exactly like my holidays. And while you were talking, I started daydreaming. I'm really looking forward to take some time for myself and replenish my cup, as you said. And this year, more than ever, I really feel the end of the year. I have so many ideas and I love my clients and I love the work that I'm doing. But we preach to all the women that we meet to slow down, take time for themselves. And I feel that I haven't been doing that over the past months, and I haven't prioritized it more than I haven't been doing it. And I'm really looking forward to the next 3 weeks to simply slow down, smell the flowers, and put my feet in the sand and just jump into the ocean again.
Oh, I'm a big fan of those plans for you. I'm really heartened to hear that's what you have in store. It's incredibly well deserved, and it's really what we all need, I think.
Absolutely. And for people like us, Christmas time is going to be a very easy season because we're going to be with our close families and we're going to replenish our cups like we just shared. But for so many of you, it's not exactly the same thing. And lots of people that are listening to us during Christmas time, they travel back home or they're going and visit their friends and family. And it can be a very challenging and tricky situations. So would you like to expand more on that, Jacqueline?
This time of year is notorious in mental health. Very sadly, statistics for high-risk situations escalate enormously coming into the Christmas period. People feel lonelier, people feel misunderstood and displaced. We have that hallmark image of a happy family coming together, and for most of us, that is not what it looks like. That families are complicated, cultures are complicated. The meeting of people having different expectations and needs on this day, whatever it is that you celebrate, tends to be a really loaded time. And then if you struggle with disordered eating, you add all of the food elements to it, which really highlights, I often think, the disordered eating in our culture is most prevalent and obvious this time of year as well, because Auntie Sue's talking about how uncomfortable she is because she's eaten too much, and Uncle Tom's unbuttoning his pants and complaining about his indigestion, and your cousin's talking about the latest diet they're on or a detox they've got in store for the new year, and New Year's resolutions are a whole other conversation. So you probably very likely are coming into this time of year experiencing environmental, social challenges. And as you highlighted, many of us are already feeling depleted and tired, and the rush to get everything done before taking the break over Christmas. Work can be more intense, chaotic. Socially, everyone wants to catch up, and we have to catch up before Christmas. That whole phenomena of, as if we fall off the earth by the 1st of January, we're not going to see each other again. We have to catch up in the next 2 weeks. So all these pressures are compiling on us, that if you tend to deal with stress, with any disorder eating behaviors showing up, or you feel uncomfortable in your body at the best of times, body image is more likely to be amplified. Body image distress is more likely to be amplified at this time, in this type of situation as well. It really is the perfect storm coming together in
And
December.
amongst all this chaos, maybe there is Uncle Bob that comes to you and say, "Oh, you finally look better."
You
Or
look so much healthier.
so much healthier. Or maybe if you have been married for a while and you have been trying to have kids, so when are you going to have kids?
Yeah.
And these comments, especially for women that have been working so hard throughout the year to gain some weight, to get their period back, to improve their fertility and their fertility journey, those two comments, as genuine and as loving and as simple as they sound, they can be heartbreaking, to put it very slightly. And I shared this on a podcast with Jade Cameron not long ago, that I managed to go back home a few years back to visit my family over Christmas. And I was sitting down having dinner with all the people that I loved. And back then I didn't have a period and I wanted so much to have a child of my own. And then my sister, she gave me a little box and I opened the box and there was a pea stick with a positive sign. And my brain started thinking, oh, when did I get pregnant? Because that's something that I wanted so much for myself, to then realize a split second later that it was my sister telling me about her second pregnancy. And even though my heart was really full, because I am an auntie of the two most wonderful kids after my kids, but that in that very split second, I felt the universe crashing down. And for all of us listening now and nodding your head and thinking, gosh, I really feel the same. First of all, it's okay to feel both emotions at the same time, to be absolutely ecstatic for someone else and to be deeply disheartened for your own current situation. And secondly, when it comes to Christmas time, it's very important to be okay in terms of getting triggered, because triggers are always around the corner. And as you mentioned before, it could be a comment coming from someone that loves you, could be a comment from a complete stranger, could be the food that you're exposed to, the lack of routine, gyms closing down, or someone mentioning the detox that they are going to start in January 2023. So being ready to get triggered and accepting that that could happen could actually make the situation slightly better, even though today we're going to discuss a few coping mechanisms that you can implement to decrease the anxiety around this holiday period. Being prepared sometimes can actually help. Yeah. And yeah, and so in terms of accepting body changes during these seasons, where would you start from? If a woman is stuck in this situation, she has gained the weight, she's done so well in terms of improving her relationship with food, and then someone comes in and make that dreaded comment, how could you help that woman?
I'd maybe speak to that in two categories, which is what you can do socially, externally, in terms of what you say back and boundaries you set, and then internally, how do you respond to the emotions that it brings up. I would say, first of all, with how you manage it with the other people directly, it's the fawning response is what can happen when we're in a fight or flight state, and we might get angry, we might feel like we want to run away, but we can also go into a pleasing response where we might seemingly be taking the somewhat compliment graciously, or feel compelled to make the other person comfortable as a priority. And everything we can do to stay grounded and be more regulated in our own nervous system, we can more honestly communicate, which assessing who the person is and what the relationship is an important part of that. Because if it's Uncle Bob that you only see once a year and everyone knows he says slightly inappropriate things and you probably won't get very far trying to enlighten him, it might be more a case of changing the subject and then containing yourself and responding to yourself. But if it's someone like maybe your mum or someone that you're going to see a lot of the time or regularly, then it might be worth having a comment somewhere on the continuum from stronger feedback to a wholehearted conversation about why this really isn't helpful. And I would love for women to be able to say something like, I actually prefer it if you didn't comment on my body, or something I say, even though I'm no longer struggling with body image distress, but I do it as a sisterhood gesture, as a political stance. If someone even comments on my body, positively or negatively, it doesn't matter. But the assumption being, say, you look really well. Say someone would say that one year, I would say something like, well, that's funny. It's hard to know what well looks like, isn't it? And just trying to plant the seed of, like, don't make assumptions about what's going on in the rest of my life or what I feel, even though I might actually be feeling well. But just trying to highlight, because this is such a big problem with the misconception of body image in our society, that you can tell something about anyone by the way they look. You can tell if they're healthy, you can tell if they're disciplined, you can tell in many ways if they're a good person, with this moralizing of somebody's physicality. So a challenge like that could be useful. If it is someone that's a bit trickier to deal with, then just changing a conversation, or not giving them positive affirmation, not saying, oh, thanks so much, even if you don't feel like that, because you are actually encouraging those types of comments to come up again, maybe next Christmas, next time you see them, almost looking like they have said something inappropriate, which they actually have. If they said something odd or left field, how would you respond? And think about whether you could respond similarly with a body image comment. Then internally, I think it really comes down to our self-relationship and capacity for self-soothing. If you felt quite activated by that comment or the situation you were in, absolutely excusing yourself, whether it's to step outside or go to the bathroom, and just taking some slow breaths, feeling your feet on the floor, working through some grounding exercises. We can go into more information about that if it's helpful. But really looking at the conversation you're having with yourself about what happened. I would be coming back to cornerstones like knowing no one else knows what you've been through, if that is true, that they don't understand the nuance of what those comments mean to you, and only you get to decide how that feels, and really deeply validate yourself, like radical self-validation in that situation, and talk yourself through it. Like, sometimes basing it on your values can be helpful. Like, I'm here because I love my family, or I love these members of my family, and I'm here for them, to celebrate connection with them. I want to see my nephews and nieces get gifts. I want to partake in the celebrations. I probably won't see most of these people again for 12 months or however long it is. That's why I'm here, not to be evaluated or given feedback on my recovery progress, because these people are not an authority on that progress.
You touched on two very important points. The first one is assumption. If someone is looking well, it can be completely broken inside, so you never know, so don't assume. And the second one is that we don't need to engage with every single conversation. So if someone starts on a conversation that includes diet mentality, so for example, I'm going to start a detox next year, someone can definitely decide not to engage in that conversation at all, without having to explain the whys behind the reasons, because they don't really want to talk about their body, diet, or anything like that. And something that I normally say is, you can have a pass the salt kind of conversation. So if someone comes to you and say, I would like to start intermittent fasting in January, you can always say, oh, interesting, can you please pass me the salt? And once again, if the conversation is activating someone's nervous system, it's very important to take time off. So you can simply stand up, go to the bathroom, and do some breathing. Although something that can also be very helpful and very easy to do is just to open the tap water, the cold tap water, and put the wrist underneath the water just to calm down the nervous system. Splash some water in the face is also very beneficial. Or if the anxiety is too high, just release it from the body by jumping on the spot for a good 30 seconds to a minute when the situation is going completely bananas, just for a lack of a better term. But not engaging with everyone and with every single type of conversation simply to please other people is absolutely paramount when going through recovery. And I love the idea of challenging other people's beliefs. For example, when they say, oh, you're looking so well, and if you feel strong enough to respond back to that comment, asking them, oh, what do you mean by well? Like, what does well mean to you? Or could be very helpful also to simply say, we don't make comments about body and food in this household. And that's normally a conversation that I have with my closest friend when they start talking about food and body in front of my kids specifically. Now they don't do it any longer because they know that I'm a pain in the bum when it comes to that. But I just changed the conversation straight away because I don't want my kids to be exposed to that kind of narrative, not even for one split second, because I want to keep my house and my house basically a safe zone for them and a safe zone for myself and my husband and all the people that come in. Then whatever you do outside, it's up to you. But if you come and work with me, or if you come and spend time in my house, then I want to allow people to feel very safe and not being triggered by any stretch of the imagination. In terms of self-soothing techniques, you mentioned a couple before. So I spoke about the one in the bathroom, splashing cold water in the face. You mentioned about leaving the environment and just going outdoor. What else could be helpful?
Making sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. So there's a 3-part breath you can do. I like to imagine a balloon in my diaphragm and filling up the balloon from the bottom section, the middle section, the top section, and then depleting it in the opposite pattern, so that it just gives your mind something to focus on as well. And often even just doing that 10 times, which might take less than a minute, can totally change your physiology, so that you can go leave the bathroom. You haven't been in there suspiciously long. It's just giving you a little pit stop so you can go back into that conversation and maybe take a different angle, feel refreshed. Because again, we're going to go into fight or flight if we feel someone says something out of left field that is triggering, or we've been dreading that someone would make that comment on this day, and there it is, it's just been said, and our body's on fire and our brain's going so fast that we actually can't think on our feet how to best handle it. Another one that I really like to do, especially if it's tricky to physically leave the situation, is just really bring awareness to my feet and feel the sensation on the pads of my feet, on the skin of my feet, feel my socks, feel the texture of my shoes or the floorboards, carpet, grass, whatever is underneath my feet. And even imagine tree roots growing out of my feet and plugging me into the earth, because that gives me like an extra sense of feeling really grounded and plugged in, and also feeling supported. I can feel like I'm plugged into the earth. I've got this whole resource under my feet. And it also, again, gives the brain something to do, so there can be a bit of reprieve where we might be able to think differently about what we're going to say. I like to sometimes consider how I would respond if, instead of making a comment about my body or a comment about diet culture, someone had said something that I find quite offensive from an ethical point of view or a political point of view. It gives me useful language to bring back to it. And similarly, people might be coming from naivety or a good place, in quotation marks, of just not realizing that they're being slightly racist, or just not realizing that they're being mildly homophobic. But if you pick up on that and that's not okay with you, how would you respond? And I often find we likely wouldn't be quite as people-pleasing, even if that is strong in you, as we would with diet culture, because if we're going through something like HA recovery and eating disorder, it's so tender, that space, it's so raw, that we can easily go into shame narratives around it of like, well, I probably am overreacting, or I probably am too sensitive around it right now. But if someone said something on a topic that you felt more objectivity around, you might say, I'm not going to laugh at that joke. I'm not going to participate in that rhetoric that I know to be harmful and I find to be offensive. then bring that mentality around the diet culture conversations. And if you feel willing to be a change agent in your family system, which doesn't always go down easily, and you don't have to do it aggressively, but if you can maybe have a little bit of a personal manifesto about why you are going into this celebration, what you are doing on interaction with your relatives, friends, whoever you're spending the time with, it can help you get clarity on what you might be encountering and what your intention is if you do.
And talking about the personal manifesto, there is another topic that I really would like to discuss, that it's completely connected with to what you just said. What if you're going through the HA recovery journey or the eating disorder recovery journey, and you get to Christmas time, you meet parents or relatives that you haven't seen for many, many, many months, and you tell them what you've been doing and what you're going through, and they don't get you? Because that's a situation that often happen, or not even to that extent, but like seeing relatives that you haven't seen for a long time, they simply poke you and they don't really understand your perspective and your point of view on life. And that could be from the partner that you've chosen to spend your life with, or the fact that you have decided to not to have kids right now and just wait it out for a little bit longer, or maybe it could be your career. So how can we feel grounded during those occasions, and how can we really stick to our gun without having to start a fight every single time? And how can we do it in a way that doesn't trigger us, that doesn't make us feel unwell and even scared of Christmas when next year comes around?
Yes.
Yeah, does that make sense to you, Jacqueline?
Absolutely. And I just really feel for anyone in that situation, because I think there's so much about this time of year, maybe bar baby showers, any other time of year, where there's so much focus on children in festivity, and they're in the TV commercials, and it's so much of the magic of Christmas is focused on children, and there might be other people's children at gatherings, and it is excruciating if this is something that you're wanting and has been difficult. And then, of course, the questions of why haven't you had a baby yet, or inferences of judgment with the assumption that you could click your fingers and get pregnant if you chose to. I think in some ways, lowering the bar of expectations can be a useful strategy, because sometimes to try and talk ourselves into having the courage to go, we create a bit of a fantasy in our mind of it's going to be amazing, like that won't even come up, they'll just say this. Perfectionistic people can sometimes have that tendency, and inevitably when that comes crashing down, it's really disappointing, because we thought it was going to be a 10 out of 10 day and it's a 3 out of 10 day. So in some ways, I think having lower expectations, being unsurprised when those misunderstandings come up, can be helpful. And then if you're in conversation with either people making assumptions again about your fertility, about your life choices, or not understanding what you have chosen, and not being able to validate something like an HA recovery journey because it's just foreign to them and not something they understand, knowing that nobody else's perspective gets to define you or your experience is a mantra that I would bring with me into that day, and maybe even write it down, put it in my purse, have it handy, that no one else's perception defines me or the experiences I've had. Because what usually happens when we get triggered from a sense of being invalidated and misunderstood is that we feel deeply unseen. And if those were key people in our life, like that's my mum-in-law, my grandma, and my sister, and I just told her this huge thing that's going on in my world, and they're like, well, it'll be fine, or there's always IVF, or some comment that just totally invalidates what that is and misunderstands it, it can almost feel annihilating because your whole lived experience has been unseen. So it's really important, if you have the ability to remember to do so, which is hard in fight or flight, to swoop in with that self-soothing again and quickly either physically take yourself away or withdraw yourself from the conversation. You're allowed to do that. You don't have to keep talking to anyone. I like that you said that earlier as well. The conversation, you're not obliged to continue any conversation to any extent, and very quickly move into a conversation with yourself around, we know, you and me know, maybe our partner knows, maybe a friend that's not here right now knows. Remind yourself of the witnesses of your journey that do see it and do get it, even your doctors, your practitioners that are alongside you. Like Claudia gets it, Jacqueline gets it, the women in the SHA community get it, even though this person sitting in front of me doesn't. And that does not have the power to take away from the experience I'm having.
And that's actually something that I discussed in the HA community in the group call this morning, to be each other's accountability buddy during the festivity seasons, because possibly, as we said at the very beginning, let's be prepared when it comes to getting triggered. So having someone that you can talk to for even a split second, and that you can send a message to, that can really reassure that what you're doing is the right thing for you, could be incredibly powerful and can change the whole day. But also it's coming from an understanding that people out there, they really understand the concept of no pain, no gain, and go hard and go strong. But they are very uneducated when it comes to slowing down, prioritizing rest, prioritizing nourishment, because it's kind of against current nowadays. So as you said, lowering the bar of expectation, self-soothing, extremely important. So always going nature, finding joy in the small things, talking to a partner, talking to someone that really that you trust and knows what you're doing, journaling, meditation, yoga, just to name the most common one. But it's not really what you do in that specific day that it's going to change your life, but it's also what you do in the other 364 days that can really help someone to get to the finish line and to get to the goal, the finishing goal, that can be getting the period back, getting freedom when it comes to food and training, and also becoming pregnant if that's something that someone wants to do. And I know that we have touched on so many points and that are going to be extremely useful for ourselves still, and also for all the women listening. And we are coming towards the end of these conversations, but is there anything else that you would like to share, Jacqueline, that you think that it's really going to help women that are going through a tough time, that are approaching the festivity seasons?
I think the most important thing I would just love to extend to everyone listening, that we are with you. We really do get it, and having that sense of community and collective, even though you might be in isolation on that day or across the festive period, is so important. Come back to your values. I think it's really a key in why you're doing this, and the cost versus benefits of while moments like Christmas Day, other festivities might be really hard with some of these interactions, the overall reward for the work you're doing is going to be so worth it. It's just one day out of the calendar year, a couple of weeks out of the calendar year, and the silly season will be over and life will go on, and you will get the benefits of having prioritized your health.
Yeah, and maybe some of us are listening and thinking, oh gosh, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks where I don't have to go to work, and where I'm going to be forced to slow down, and I'm going to be forced to explore my feelings, and to get triggered, and to have to go a little bit deeper to understand what I'm thinking and why I'm engaging in certain behaviors. This is an opportunity for all of you that are on the fence and don't know what's the next step to take, and for all of you that are kind of scared of taking 2 weeks off from the routine. Well, just look at this moment as an opportunity to do some discovery work. Take this as an opportunity to write down a few goals and to create a plan for when 2023 comes along, because it's going to be only 3 weeks from now anyway. And if you really want to make sure that within the next 12 months, you improve your relationship with food, with yourself, with training. We haven't really talked about food today, but anyway, that's a topic for another conversation. But for all of you that are really tired of living this way and be scared of Christmas and feeling like the Christmas Grinch, just, reach out. And you can start by simply dropping a comment just below this video, or just send a DM to Jacqueline or I on our Instagram page or Facebook page. You can book a call with us, or simply just look around, see if there is anyone around you that can really support you. It doesn't have to be us, but give yourself the chance to get the support that you need and deserve. Yeah. And that's all I just wanted to add. And for all of you listening that are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas. And for all of you that are not celebrating Christmas, happy holidays, happy festivities. And to you as well, Jacqueline, even though I'm going to be in contact with you over the next few weeks.
And to you, Claudia, Merry Christmas, and to your beautiful family.
Likewise. And I see you all ladies back in 2023. Bye.